guys, Soph here. I thought I'd do a little video on the basics of Resto Shaman because recently I've had a lot of people come to me on Discord, on Twitch, YouTube. People have found me from Radio.io, they found me from the M Plus Discord, and they've asked me to kind of talk to them about the healing rotation of Resto Shaman, the stat prio, the Azurite essences, and all that, which is kind of irrelevant coming into Shadowlands. But there are things like the healing rotation, the damage rotation, the stat prio, and the talents that haven't really changed much from pre-patch to Shadowlands. So I'm going to do a little video today talking about that stuff. Now, if you don't know me, I'm currently the rank 7 Resto Shaman on NA. I'm currently 6k IO. And I'm like rank 30 in the world right now. Now, I'm not one of the high-end boys who's pushing on Resto Shaman, but I have been doing currently 27s, 28s, 29s on live pre-patch keys. And so I think the least I could do is make a little video to help people who have been asking me to talk a little bit about Resto Shaman. So we're not going to go into pre-patch and like BFA Resto Shaman. I'm mainly just going to talk about the healing rotation, the damage rotation, the talents for Shadowlands, because that, is releasing next week. And I know that there are a lot of people that I know who are picking up Resto Shaman for raid, or they've seen like guides about how Resto Shaman is looking really strong in M+, or even people who have been tuning into my stream and been watching me talk about Shaman and how I think it's going to be really good in Shadowlands, who are like, oh, I'm going to give it a try. Where do I start? So where do you start? When you first make your Resto Shaman, you're probably going to be significantly under-geared. You're probably not going to know where to go with your stats. But we're first going to talk about your healing rotation, because a lot of people tend to spam healing wave. They spam chain heal. They put down healing rain all the time. And they always tell me that they have issues with going Now, my healing rotation as a Resto Shaman, it's all in my Earth Shield, my Cloud Burst, SLT, Ascendance, Healing Tide, Healing Surge, and Riptide. Now that's pretty much the basics of what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk to you about how I heal, like 27s, 28s, kind of rotation healing, which is, quite high throughput. There's a lot of like things going on, ads are getting pulled into bosses, and there's all kind of things going on. So I'm going to talk about how I keep my groups alive, which applies to the lower keys. Doesn't matter what level keys you're doing. The healing rotation that I teach you today is going to be simple, it's going to be effective, and you're going to be able to use it in any kind of key that you're, doing in Shadowlands, or even, this week before Shadowlands gets released if you're testing out Resto Shaman. Now, I'm going to talk about my single target healing. So we're going to just talk about tank healing in particular. Now, I always keep my Earth Shield on my tank at all times. Then the way that I heal my tank is I'm going to keep Riptide on them also. And if they need any tank healing, I am going to initiate with Healing Surge. Pretty much that is all I do for the tank. They take damage, I'm pressing Riptide, I'm Healing Surge. If I take damage, Riptide, Healing Surge. If, one or two players are taking damage, I don't tend to press Chain Heal. Now I'll press Healing Surge, I'll press Riptide. And I tend to keep Riptide on my tank, myself, and my melee DPS at all times. Now the reason I keep it on my melee DPS over my ranged is that they are the people who take the most damage. They're in the way of, frontals and like cleave and all kinds of things. Now, I will top that Riptide up if they take any damage. So like for any reason, like let's just say they get hit by a cleave, Riptide goes on. Even if it's already on, I Riptide, Healing Surge, and they're pretty much back to full health. Now, right now, you have things that buff that. You have a talent that buffs that. You have Spirit of Preservation, which you won't have in Shadowlands, but it's still going to be the same thing. So you're going to see me here healing, surging myself, my tank, whoever in my group is taking damage. Now, if I'm not pressing Healing Surge or Riptide, normally I'll be pressing Chain Heal. Chain Heal is what I use as a primary AoE throughput source. So I'll put down my Cloud Burst, then I'll just press Chain Heal, probably put down Healing Rain, and I'll be really pumping AoE into my team at that point. Now, I don't tend to put down my healing rain particularly often, as you'll see here. I don't have it down during this boss fight, the first boss of a 28 shrine, because in most pug keys, people do not stand in your healing rain. It's the same thing as F-Low. So it's kind of a waste for me to put it down and then have nobody stand in it. So you'll probably notice the only time I'll put it down is during Windspeaker Heldis, where I really need that heavy AoE healing. So you'll see me put down Healing Tide, Cloud Burst, Healing Rain. I'm currently getting hit by every volcano. But yeah, a lot of people tend to press Healing Wave. Now the problem with Healing Wave is that, to me, it has a long cast time and very low value. I prefer to press Healing Surge over Healing Wave because it's faster, and I feel like on my end it's just a better single target heal. Now if you are really wanting to pump heals into someone, I'd suggest moving your Earth Shield to the target that you're really pumping your heals into. Like, you can take it off the tank for a second. Like, let's just say my rogue for some reason was taking an incredibly heavy amount of damage. I just chuck my healing surge, my Earth Shield on my rogue, and then I would just pump, like put a Riptide on him, and then I would pump healing surges into him. Now the weakness of Resto Shaman is its tank healing. It isn't, as much as I'm talking about how good healing surge spam is, there are other classes that are better with dealing with tank damage, because the one thing that Resto Shaman lacks is a defensive. So if your tank is getting chunked, okay, you put down your Earth Elemental, which is going to help with your tank, because your Earth Ele is going to tank some of these mobs. But if your tank is taking a lot of damage, I always tend to use my Spirit Link Totem, because it balances out the HP, and like if my tank is getting chunked, my other team members are going to be, their HP is going to be going into the tank to try and help keep him alive. Now, Windspeaker Heldis on Fortified does quite a lot of damage. So here you're going to see I've got my Cloud Burst down. I have my Healing Rain out. Now I'm probably going to put down my Healing Tide Totem. Now I'm, as you can see, healing surging the two targets that are taking the most damage. I end up using SLT, but I always prioritize Healing Surge over Chain Heal if particular members are slightly lower HP than others. I'll Healing Surge the lowest target, and then I'm going to press Chain Heal and just try and balance out the group. And then probably during one of these next Gale wins, you'll see me withdraw my totem, my Cloud Burst totem, and the healing that was in that totem, which is 30% that was stored, is going to go out and distribute evenly over the 5 people in my key. But as you can see here, the one thing you're just lacking is a really nice defense. If you don't have Pain Stuff, you don't have Iron Bark, Cocoon even is helpful with the tank. All you have is your Earth Shield, which provides no defensive for your tank whatsoever. Now the other thing that I want to talk about is how strong Ascendance is. I'm going to talk about the talents, but I want to talk to you in particular about Ascendance, because some people don't like taking Ascendance because it's a 3-minute CD. Now every 3 minutes you turn into a Water Ascendant and it buffs your healing done, and it releases some form of AoE when you press it. Now Ascendance is incredibly powerful for AoE healing. I always run it in pugs because you never know. Your group's going to stand in some frontals, they're probably not going to kick certain things, mad AoE is going to happen, and you're going to have to pop that Ascendance. But whenever you pop Ascendance, I feel like nobody can die. It's literally like a CD you pop and you're like, well, everyone's unkillable. Because you're just doing incredible amounts of AoE healing during that there's just no way that anyone can die. Now Healing Tide and SLT are kind of harder to tell you when the best time to use it is, but I use SLT. Oh, I've popped Ascendance here. Now as you can see, I'm pumping into the tank. I've got a Riptide on him and I'm just healing surging him. I think I popped Elemental. Yeah, I popped my Elemental here to just help the tank, like help kite some of these mobs. Now I've lost my Ascendance, so I'm kind of hoping here that I can keep my tank alive. But as you can see right here, if I had Pain Sup or Life Cocoon, I could be doing more for my tank, but I just have to do pure HPS. So when your tank is taking damage, prioritize healing surging your tank. And then in this case, you can put down your like Incap Totem, stun the ads, or you can put down your Earthbind totem, which slows the ads so it can help your tank kite. But the one thing about Resto Shaman that you want to do is use these totems and use your elemental so that you can help your tank kite, because you don't have a Ring of Peace, you don't have a Vortex or a Typhoon, you don't really have anything to help your tank kite. So especially during Necrotic Week, you want to make really good use of your totems to slow, stun, and just control, you know, the mobs for your tank. So that is something that Resto Shaman does bring to the table. And yeah, you just have to kind of be aware of where you use these CDs. But I always suggest saving SLT for very heavy AoE damage, or, you know, as some form of a tank CD. So we're gonna go here to the, yeah, we'll go here. So here I want to talk a little bit about your DPS rotation, which it doesn't really change. The only thing that's going to change in Shadowlands is you're probably going to have a Covenant ability wound into your DPS rotation. Now, as a Resto Shaman, I always keep Lava Burst on CD. The more targets I can have it on, the more procs of Lava Burst I'm going to get. So I'm always keeping out my dots on as many targets as possible, always using Lava Burst on CD, and whenever I get a proc, I'm always using it. I will use Lightning Bolt to fill, or Chain Lightning if it's more than 3 targets. Now, your single target DPS as a Resto Shaman is actually incredibly good. It is very powerful, and you will do a lot of damage. Here, as you can see, it shows that I'm doing quite a lot of damage, which is kind of inflated by the damage buff that I have from the last boss of Shrine. But you do a lot of damage even without this buff. It is buffed by your Igneous potential right now as an Azerite trade, but even though I've been playing a lot of Shadowlands Beta Shaman, and even then my DPS is still incredibly good. Lava Burst is just a great ability, in my opinion. Now, let's just talk a little bit about the talents of Resto Shaman. I'm only going to brush over the M+ talents, because I'll do another video on Raid, and I'll probably do another video when stuff gets updated. Sorry, my cat just broke through my door. But we're just going to talk about these ones for now. We're going to talk about the ones that I use. Now, I use Undulation, which is every 3rd healing wave or healing surge heals for an additional 50%. You can use Unleash Life. Now, Unleash Life is a decent, I don't know, talent to run if you think your tank is going to take a lot of damage, because it does a little bit of healing. And then it increases the next effect of your direct heal by 35%. So if you think your tank is going to take a lot of damage, I would probably suggest maybe in Pugs running Unleash Life. But I run Undulation because I don't feel that I need, you know, that little bit extra, I don't know, tank healing or single target healing. So this is incredibly good. I don't healing wave, as I said earlier. I would just spam Healing Surge, so every 3rd Healing Surge heals for that additional 50%. Now in this row I run Echo, which means I get 2 Riptides, 2 Healing Stream Totems, but because I run Cloud Burst, that's 2 Cloud Burst Totems, 2 Lava Bursts. Now this talent, in my opinion, is incredibly strong. Having 2 Riptides means I can keep one on myself or my tank at all times. Having 2 Lava Bursts is huge for your single target damage rotation. And having 2 Cloud Burst Totems is just really handy for any AoE healing you're going to need in that, you know, in your Mythic Plus dungeon that you're doing. So I would either run Echo, or I'd run this one here. Healing Wave, Healing Surge, and Chain Heal. Heal for an additional 20% on targets affected by your Riptide or Healing Rain. Now, as I said, I don't tend to put Healing Rain down often because people tend to avoid it. Like in F-Flow, they see it and they're like, well, I don't need to stand in that. So it's only really basically who has my Riptide, but because I'm not having double Riptide, because like obviously these 2 are in the same row, it just kind of feels overkill to me. I would rather have, you know, 2 Lava Burst, 2 Riptides, 2 Cloud Burst Totems. So I run Echo. Now in this row, the only 2 that I would consider running is Static Charge and Spirit Wolf. So while you're in Ghost Wolf, you gain 5% movement speed and 5% damage reduction every 1 second. I tend to use Ghost Wolf very often in M+. I use it to get out of things like dodge mechanics. I use it just as a movement speed to get from, you know, A to B if we're in combat, or I don't know, if I'm not you know, healing anyone and I'm just, I don't know, going places, I tend to use it. And that damage reduction is kind of nice. So I always run this. You could run Static Charge, which reduces the CD of your cap totem by 5 seconds for each enemy that it stuns. That again is another option, which could be interesting to run like during Necrotic if you need to help your tank kite. But again, I'm always in Ghost Wolf, so this just feels better for me to use. Now here we have Ancestral Vigor, Earthen Wall, and Ancestral Protection. Now Ancestral Protection is like a 5-minute B-res totem, which you put down and you'll res the target. Again, it could be interesting to run if you don't have a B-res in your group, but because it's a 5-minute CD, it just feels a bit long and it just feels like kind of a waste. Earthen Wall, again, is kind of interesting. Summons a totem with 31,000 health for 15 seconds. 500 damage from each attack is directed to the totem. It just is kind of an awkward... Sorry, my cat's sitting next to my mic. It's kind of an awkward ability to use. So I just prefer Ancestral Vigor, which is targets you heal with Healing Wave, Healing Surge, Chain Heal, or Riptide. Gives them 10% increased health, which I'm using Riptide and Healing Surge a lot. So this is just a talent that I find better for me. Earthen Wall could be interesting, but again, and the whole time I've been doing keys on my Resto Shaman, I've never run Earthen Wall. Now in this row, a lot of people run Nature's Guardian. So when your health is brought below 35%, you instantly heal for 20% of your maximum health. I used to run this a lot when I was starting to play Resto Shaman, but Spirit Walker's Grace is probably one of my most, I don't know, loved abilities about Resto Shaman, which is, if I use Graceful Spirit, every 1 minute I can move and heal. So for some reason my healing UI has disappeared on me, but every 1 minute I can move and cast abilities, which during boss fights where you have to be moving a lot, this is an incredibly strong CD to have. And having Graceful Spirit puts it on a 1 minute CD, which means, you know, I can get this up multiple times in a boss fight, during trash when you have to be dodging mechanics, I can be moving. Because the thing about Shaman is the only abilities you can cast while moving is Riptide. So especially if your group is taking massive AoE, I tend to pop Ascendance and then pop Spirit Walker's Grace, and I'm just running and I'm just spamming the hell out of my group. So I always run this because the fact that it reduces that CD from 2 minutes to 1 is just, I don't know, too important to me than every 45 seconds. If I'm below 35% HP, I instantly heal for 20%. If you're new to Shaman and you don't know these dungeons very well, I would suggest probably running Nature's Guardian, because that's quite important. You know, if you're taking a lot of damage and you don't know, you know, what mechanics do what, you might accidentally stand in something, and that instant heal is also really nice, just to make sure that you keep yourself alive. But again, it's preference at this point, and I prefer being able to move and heal every 1 minute. You know, that's like incredibly important to me. And then in this row, I always take Cloudburst Totem, which is a totem that you put down, and then 30% of the healing that you do during Cloudburst Totem is like put into the totem. So if I'm casting Healing Surge, Chain Heal, all of it is going into this totem. Well, 30% of all of the healing that I do. And then when I trigger it again, so either it will just expire and it will heal, or like if you know, for instance, like on the Tantrum of Cragmore in like, you know, 27s, what I'll do is put down my Cloudburst. I will start spamming Chain Heal and Healing Surge, get healing stored into this totem, and then right when the Tantrum starts, the first tick, I trigger my Cloudburst, and it spreads between my 5 members. So when you know that there's AoE healing, Cloudburst is incredibly strong to run. So I always run Cloudburst, and I probably always will. But it does replace your healing stream. So you won't have a totem that you just put down, like the baby totem, which isn't your healing tide, but just a baby totem that you put down, and it just heals. This, you know, overrides that, so you won't have that totem anymore, but I don't feel like that's ever an issue. And then earlier I spoke about how good Ascendance is. Every 3 minutes you transform into the Water Ascendant. You do an instant immediately healing for 14,000, and then all of the healing that you do, which is duplicated, you know, is between your whole team, which again, I pop Ascendance, I pop Spirit Walker's Grace, and I'm just absolutely pumping during a boss fight, which I can cast while moving, which is just so important to me. And I stick by Ascendance. Some weeks, I run High Tide, which every 20,000 mana you spend brings a High Tide, making your next 2 Chain Heals heal for an additional 10%. But I just feel so much stronger when I have Ascendance. It's just like an oh shit button as a healer, which is super important to me, because like on the beta, some of these dungeons, like some things really hurt and they do a lot of AoE damage. So having Ascendance is just super important for that. Now, there are a couple things that you do have. You have your Water Shield, which helps you restore mana, which I would always keep on yourself at all times. I don't tend to ever put Lightning Shield on myself, so I always keep my Mana Shield on myself. And then Spirit Wolf, or Ghost Wolf as I said, I use to help me dodge mechanics and get places quicker. You have Astral Shift, which is taking 40% less damage for 12 seconds on a 1.5 minute cooldown, which is an incredibly strong defensive. Which I would like to say, I would use it almost on cooldown whenever you know that you're going to take massive, you know, damage to yourself. So that's an incredibly strong CD. And then you have your Monetide Totem. Monetide Totem is kind of useless, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't tend to ever put it down in M+, it's more of a raid CD. So if you don't put it down, it's not really a big deal. It's literally just better for raid. Also make sure you keep your Flame Tongue 1 at all times on your weapon. So it's a free, you know, damage. So it's not much, but it's something. And that's pretty much all it is to M+ Resto Shaman. I'll probably do a video talking about like Covenants and Soulbinds and Legendaries, you know, probably in the next couple days. But a lot of people have just been asking me the basics on Resto Shaman, and the basics are Healing Surge as your single target heal, Chain Heal and Cloudburst as your AoE. Use your, you know, 3 minute CDs accordingly. I try to use the 1 CD, but I tend to know currently in the BFA dungeons what does what and how much damage they're gonna take. But yeah, I also use SLT as a tank helper, which some people are like, oh, when do you use SLT? And I tend to save it for when my tank is getting really chunked and I don't have my Earth Healing up. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, a lot of people have been commenting on my recent Shaman uploads, like my KR and my higher keys. They want my UI and my add-ons, which I'm putting in my Discord. So I'll link my Discord underneath, because I'm going to make a new Shaman UI for Shadowlands. So I'm going to be working on that this afternoon. But if you guys have any questions about Resto Shaman or like Resto Shaman and keys, feel free to put them in the comments, or like join my Discord and you can like find me there. But I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy your Shadowlands release. Bye guys.